My name is Roy Weissman, and I have been negotiating since I was 12, maybe even earlier. And I would say to my dad, would you give me this? And he'd say, okay, well then you have to swim 10 laps, or you have to do this, or you have to mow the lawn twice, or do all these things, right? And as I got older, I realized, well, wait a minute. As you get older, you want other things, you want to borrow the car, you want this other stuff, and there was always a cost, right? And I thought to myself, why do I have to agree to his price? I said, wait a second. Why don't I determine the price? So I sat down and I figured out, all right, well, if I want to borrow the car, can I do this and get that? So the first time I did it, I was a little nervous. I went to him, I said, well, I want this, whatever it was, and I'll give you that. And he looked at me, he's like, okay, that's fine. And it worked again and again, and I realized, wait a second. I don't have to settle for his price. I can set my own price. I can take the initiative to set my own price. And I built a career out of this. I've negotiated with some of the largest companies in the world in the media, entertainment, and tech space. I've done deals with Amazon, major deals with Amazon, with Verizon, with Comcast, with tons of great companies, hundreds of deals. And in all those deals, I've learned the negotiations best practices. I've learned the strategies and the tactics that get those deals done and get them done at the price that I wanted. I don't have to take their price. A lot of people feel if you deal with a big company, you have to say, thank you, sir, may I have another? And just take whatever they give you. But you forget something. At the end of the day, they need something from you, and you have it. So why are you just agreeing to whatever they want? Because if they need it and you've presented it so well, they realize they need it from you. They want what you have. They're going to deal to you. They're going to deal to you. And that's really important. And it's really important to make it happen for yourself. And I've even done this in my personal life. In the last year or so, I bought a house and a car. And it was some of the most competitive markets I have ever seen in my life. We saw 10, 15 houses. We only bid on one house and we got it. And we were one of like 8 or 10 bids. It was insane. And it's not just about paying the most money, it's about knowing what to pay so that you're paying the least money to get the deal. We got the house, and we got the house that we wanted in the place, in the market, in the area. Because using negotiations best practice, I'm going to talk about these in all my videos. This is what it's about, making sure you can get what you want and knowing the strategies and tactics to do it. I bought a car. I wanted to buy a car, and of course, I picked a car that's one of the top selling SUVs in the country. I'm like, I want that car. And then I started calling around to dealers. Nobody had it in stock. And what's the first thing you think of? You think, well, there are 20 cars on the lot. You have to get rid of one. So you give me this for a good price. Nobody had any cars on the lot. But I managed, again, using the best practices, the tactics and strategies that I know that have worked for me in my career. And I got the car at the price I wanted, in the time frame I wanted. I got the deal done. And that's what I present in my videos. And I have a beautiful daughter and a wonderful wife. And I noticed something. And my wife tells me this all the time, she feels like sometimes she's at a disadvantage at trying to get what she wants. And I try to explain to her, you're using the best practice, you're doing this, and she feels like she's at a disadvantage. And I've been teaching negotiations for years too. And I have women say to me, Professor, it's frustrating. It's not easy. I asked for this and I can't get it. People don't listen to me. And it really upset me. I have a daughter in my life. I don't want her to grow up and not be able to get what she wants and get it the right way. Win-win the right way. And I said to myself, I got to do something about this. I said, it's time I helped people win. And women, there's a whole thing about, is there a gender gap in negotiations? Is it harder for women in negotiations? And let me tell you, there's tons of great, smart, capable, savvy, intelligent women. I learn from them every single day. There's so many great people, not just women. I learn from everybody every day. And when I hear about this gender gap and I hear about these stories about the frustrations, I get upset because when women have called me, I tell them what to do. I say, you've got to have something they want, and you've got to position it in a way they're going to want to deal with you. And that's a key thing. You know, I read a statistic. It used to be that women negotiated 4 times less than men. Well, women said, we're not going to do this anymore, and that's not true anymore. Women negotiate a lot. I saw a statistic that for salary, 54% of women negotiate versus 44% of men. Wow, that's awesome that women are saying, I'm stepping up, I'm going to make it happen. We've all heard about the disparity in pay. We've all heard about the disparity that women get paid less for the same job. So when I heard the statistic that 54% of women are now negotiating their salary versus 44% of men, I thought this is great. But then the second part of that statistic was they're still being paid less. I said, this is crazy. I said, there's no excuse for this. I said, it's time they got paid more, or they got paid at least as much, if not more. They get paid what they're worth, get paid more than they're worth. It's time the women were winning as well as the men. It's time everybody's winning, because that's what it's all about. Everybody should win. And so women sometimes are up against, I've heard the word double bind, right? If you're too nice, then no one pays attention to you. And if you're a little bit aggressive, well, we don't like her, she's not nice, or she's rude, or whatever it is. I mean, come on. You know, if a man does that, does he get criticized like that? I doubt it, not usually. So women face this double bind. And I read all these articles. I said, after I'm reading these articles, because I want to help my wife and my daughter, I want my daughter to learn, reading these articles, I'm hearing all this stuff. I'm like, this is just not right. You know, and then I work with different organizations. And recently in one organization I worked with a woman who was the head of a major division of this organization. She was having her going away dinner. She had resigned after 8 years at this job. She did an amazing job. She increased their sales substantially. She built up the business. She built a great foundation. She had a great reputation. But 3 years prior, new leadership came in of the company, and they were getting rid of all the people running these divisions. She was one of the last ones still standing, and they didn't make her life easy. So she finally just said, fine, I'll leave, right? And she was telling stories at lunch. And she told a story that really, I never heard of this. She said she developed this really significant plan to transform her division. And her division consisted of a lot of men. There were a lot of men that worked for her. And she was concerned in the past she had bad experiences presenting her plans, and certain people of the men would shoot them down. And they were good plans. So she came up with this great transformative plan, and she was so concerned that she would get attacked for it. Then she asked a male colleague who worked for her to present it. So he did, and at the end of the presentation, got all kinds of compliments. This is great, we love it, we should do it. Yet she felt that if she had presented it, it might have been shot down. And just the very fact of that double standard, it's not good, it's wrong, it shouldn't be there. So I said, I've got to help women in their negotiations. I want to help everybody, but today we're focusing on helping women. And the one thing I want to emphasize here that's really important, that's extremely important, because this is not about your capabilities or what you can bring. In most cases, you're highly capable, you're intelligent, you're smart. It's not about you, it's about the environment. It's about the market environment. And it's how you relate to that, how you communicate with that, what you need to do to give you that edge, to give you that clout, to get them to listen to you and stop focusing on your gender and focusing on what they can get from you with a deal. So it's not about what you bring, it's about doing it in a way that gives you an edge, that gives you a position of strength, that makes you the go-to person for that deal or that transaction. You know, again, in my reading, it said a Harvard Business Review article said when women negotiate, they are often penalized, seen as less likable. And the reality is, unfortunately, negotiation is not gender neutral. There seems to be double standards. So I'm here to change that so that all this silliness will go, not silliness, but all this routine will go away, and people will say, I need to do a deal with this person, whether it's a woman or a man. I need to do a deal. And whether or not today it feels like you face a higher bar, forget that. It's now time to have them calling you and saying, I need to do a deal with this person, with this woman. And that's very important. So what are we talking about today? Today is about learning how to negotiate in any environment, with anybody, with men, women, anyone, anywhere, any place, and end up in a position of strength so that you can negotiate both powerfully and effectively to get what you want. My goal is to help you develop a real-world playbook to negotiate with power, presence, and authenticity, to be yourself and to win. So what is the significance of negotiation? Well, when you negotiate well, you align interests. You bring together two sides. That's really valuable to get stuff done. You know, you bring together two sides. You bring a collaborative environment. You're proposing solutions. You're active listening. You're hearing what they need. And you're also advocating for your value, like I did when I was 13 or 12 or 14. And I said, I'll set the price. Why don't you set the price? Why don't you get the deal done the way that's going to benefit you the most? That's what this is about. Being willing to set boundaries, being willing to set up positive outcome for everybody, and defending your part, getting what you want, balancing self-advocacy and commonality, bringing people together, managing difficult economics, putting all the pieces together and overcoming any resistance or anything. You want them to be thinking, I just want to know, what do I need to do business with this person? That's what it's about. So let's start with something that's really important. You know, the important thing to understand is if you're not prepared, if you don't follow negotiations best practices, regardless of your gender, you will not have a chance at succeeding at the highest levels. That is the foundation of negotiations. Preparation, that's really important. Positioning, how you set yourself. Who are you? Why do I need you? Frame your values strategically. Empathy, listening to them, understanding their needs, understanding what they need, and understanding what you can bring to help address and satisfy those needs. And finally, no apologies. Whatever you've got is valuable. You know it. There's no apologies. You didn't do anything wrong. You have just come to them to help solve their problems. And remember, the foundation of what I'm saying today is for you to utilize negotiations best practices in the highest level, at the most effective level. And they're going to say, how do we get this deal done? Do you know that most people fail or do poorly at their negotiations because they're not prepared? They don't do their homework. Do they research the market? You need to research the market. What is the market for this? Who else is selling this? Who's the competition? You have to research the other party. Who are these people? What are their backgrounds? Are they technical? Are they creative? What kind of people are they? Trying to understand how they think. Knowing how they think is so critical. Understanding, thinking in your head, playing out a discussion. Before you go to a meeting, you should think about, what are all the questions they're going to ask me? And forget any questions that have anything to do with other things than negotiating this deal. What are they going to want to know about my product? Have I presented enough about what I bring? They're going to see value. Have I addressed their issues? You must do Lots of advanced planning and research. Do your homework. Go to LinkedIn. Research Google. Research the market. Who's the competition? What are they selling? Why are they selling it? Why would this client even want to do any business with you? What is the value to them? What is their return on investment? What do they want? This is really important. Why would they be interested in what you have to offer? What do you think you could say to them that they'd say, oh my goodness, how do we do this right this minute? How can I sign up and sign a deal with you now? How fast can I get this deal done? What do you need to say to them? Think of that sentence at the top of the line. That is your goal. You want them to say, wow, how do I do this? What do you have that they must have? And if you haven't positioned it well and you're selling nails and they say, I can go to any hardware store and get nails. I'll go to home, I can buy them online. What do I need you for? Then you're not good. It's going to be much harder to win. And then all the other things get into the negotiation, the gender issues, the perceptions, the time. No. If you position your product so they see it has the most value to solve their problem, and you need to know what their problems are. You need to do the research in advance. You need to estimate what you think it is. You need to look at the competition. You need to look at the whole picture. And after you look at the whole picture, then you need to plan it in your head. What are the questions they're going to ask? What kind of question might they ask? What are the hard questions? What are the easy questions? How can I be totally prepared? So let's get down to what do you actually need? What steps, other than things I'm just talking about, what also do you need to achieve the success that you deserve in winning in your negotiations? Well, first, no apologies. I hear stories about people, women being insecure about their presentation. Well, I don't want to get the guy upset, or I don't want, forget that. If you are basing your negotiations on the facts, if you've done your research, if you've done your homework, and you know you're giving them a fair, first-class, top-notch, valuable offer, then stand tall and present it. If they don't want it, you move on. If they don't want it, you go to the next one. Because you know what? If you don't want to do it, there's 10 others that will. And that's okay. I'm fine with that. But I think this is great for you, and here's why. Because I listen to you, I talk to you, I understand what your issues are. That's where strategic empathy comes in. Listening to what their issues are, their problems, their situations, coming up with solutions for them. You're not presenting your product. You're presenting the solution to their problems. You're just there to help them out. You're not there to put a deal together. You're there to help them out. You want me to help you sign here, pay the bill, right? Strategic empathy. That's really important. Listen to what they say. And by the way, anchor everything you do with data. What are the facts? That's important. Don't tell them your opinion. I think you'd be great. It looks good on you. No. You know, why? What are the numbers that make sense for this deal? That's really important. Do your homework. People that don't do their homework, I don't care what gender they are, will make it a lot harder to succeed. Do your homework. Follow negotiations best practices. Follow these things. So when you go to a meeting, you're 1,000% prepared. You've done your homework. You know why you're better than the competition. I used to go in the cable industry and people would say, you know, I don't need your service. We have the other one. I'd say, would you like to make some more money? What do you mean? Well, let me show you how people that added my service and had the other one also are making more money. Oh, well, let me hear about that. Now they're listening because they do want to make money. So I'm showing them how to do it. That's really important. And you know what? Many women have amazing skills in noticing things about people. They're great at active listening. Listen, empathy, hear what the client says. One of the top values in negotiating any deal is listening to what the other side says. Also, noticing unspoken behavior, nonverbal signals. And A lot of women are great at that. A lot of men are great at that too. But if that's a strong suit with you, use it. It will help you close more deals. It will help you get stuff done, paying attention, getting the signals, listening to what they say, empathy. Ask open-ended questions so you can find out what's on their mind. Early in my career, I had business dealings with a woman, owned a cable system, very successful, one of the smartest women. And people would say, it's hard for women to negotiate. She told me a story about when she sold her cable system to a very large company, how they came in and they gave her a lowball deal. Now, mind you, she didn't have 100 buyers to choose from. They came in, they were a strong buyer, but yet they tried to lowball her. But she was prepared to say, thank you, have a nice day. She went in with facts and figures. She went in and proved her case and said to them, look, you know how much this business is worth. You can see it. I can see what you paid for other businesses with similar profits as this business. So all I'm asking is you pay me in a similar multiple. She was prepared and they knew it. She got her price and more because she went in prepared. Nobody cared that she was a woman, a man, whatever she was. They didn't care. They wanted to buy her business. She had the business and she came in with facts and figures to support what she was asking for. And that's really important. Facts and figures. Do your homework. And she was very professional because she wasn't held hostage. People who don't go in prepared are held hostage. I once asked students in a presentation class, 20-year-old, I said, what's the number one reason people are nervous when they make a presentation? And I'm always surprised the first, second day of class, they'll say it's because you're not prepared. So be prepared. Stand out. Show them you have something they really want. So you got to get started with this. You can't be afraid to do it. You can't be reticent. So if you're a little concerned, you're not totally there, start with a small deal. Just start with a small deal. Who cares? If it messes up, it messes up. Practice makes perfect. So start with your small deal and you'll find out you can do your price like I did with my dad. You can set the price. You can set the terms. But that's based on doing your homework, having your facts and figures, knowing what their needs are, and understanding the whole picture. So do your homework, do it right, and you'll be amazed at the success that you can have. Prepare thoroughly. Use strategic empathy. Listen to what they say and connect it to what you can bring to solve their problems. You're there to solve their problems, so do exactly that. And at the end of the day, remember, if you don't ask, you don't get. Be proud of what your accomplishments are. Be proud when you do it right. And be strong enough and confident enough to say, thank you, I appreciate you coming in. This isn't going to work for me. So I wish you the best day. Have a nice life. I did that once in a deal, a major deal. I lost the deal, and the president of the company sat me down and explained it to me. And I was very nice. I said to him, Joel, I'm bummed out, really wanted this thing. I said, but, hopefully we'll have a shot at something else. And this one company, this was their biggest cable system they had, so I wasn't going to get a bigger one. And I was nice to him. And he said to me, I'm surprised you're not yelling at me. I said, how would that get me anything? He said, well, your competition screamed at me, and they were the big guys. I said, well, you don't get anything that way. 6 months later, they had signed a deal with my competition. There were other competitors too who screamed at him. And 6 months later, they came through. They said, Roy, they said, your competition we signed the deal with dropped the ball. We don't want them anymore. We want you. And I got the deal. So be confident, be professional, and know what you're doing. Do your homework, and you will win. I wish everybody the best. Go out there and make something happen today.